Anyway, so we're going to talk today about reboots, and specifically, there's been some news recently that Disney is looking to reboot Firefly, and there's been some discord within the community of Firefly. Those who have really missed having a nice Western space cowboy. I think a lot of us have been getting our fix from Mandalorian because it's kind of got a similar vibe, and it's been pretty awesome. But now Disney is like, well, we've got one successful space cowboy. Let's take the other one and make it happen.
Yeah, when we first heard the news, and I first heard this on social media, I made a comment. And I was like, why do we have to reboot everything? Can we just realize that you can continue a story? To the negative for rebooting a show like Firefly, a lot of the cast, as Hannah was saying, in stories is so loved by fans.
Yeah.
If you try to replace those characters, you run the risk of alienating those fans and it not being as good as the original.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think is probably a big reason for Disney considering a reboot instead of a continuation of the story is Firefly only got one season.
Yep.
And so rebooting seems a lot easier, I think probably because there's not as much content to go on, and so with it only being one season, it's easier to scrap something like that and start over because it's not like several seasons worth of series that they would have to redo.
Yep.
And then they would continue the story, I imagine, if it was successful, past the first season, because Fox isn't involved.
Yeah.
And
Did you see that light shade of Fox?
and so,
You know, it's one of those things where if you don't know how it's going to be received, then you could end up with your foot in your mouth, right? Disney could end up rebooting Firefly and it could be bad. They could reboot Firefly and it could be great. But I think all of us, first of all, give them a chance. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And we're going to live a lot happier lives if we go into it hoping that we're entertained. But as far as the actual discussion of are reboots good or bad, I think a good question for us to ask is, when should we let something go? When should we decide this was fantastic and I loved it and it was wonderful and it's over and it's okay that it's over? How do we come to a point where instead of just looking back with longing and feeling the loss of something that no longer exists, to when we can look back and just be glad that it happened and move on and not be so locked into the past and just spending all of our time wishing that we could relive it? I think a lot of